Yep, you're good. You're good.
Okay, it's still loading on my end.
Well, we're still streaming. It says we're streaming, so yeah. So you can X out of that, you know, on the when you're on that screen, then you won't get any background noise. It's still recording. It's still live on YouTube, so you're fine.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. So Bernie, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Environmental Impact Commission meeting on February 10th, 2021. It's a web-based meeting hosted on Zoom. All votes will be by roll call. Roll call for attendance. B. Gallows here. Mary Cronin,
Here.
Jeff Harold,
He's here, but he's
Jeff
busy.
Harold,
Harold,
Unmute yourself,
Mark
Jeff.
Masood,
Yeah, I'm
Here.
here. I'm here. I'm here trying to eat dinner too at the same time.
okay, Mark Masood said here.
I did.
Okay, Matt Rose,
Here.
thank you. We
I
have a
want to
quorum.
go where he is.
We'll start with the acceptance of the minutes from November 19th, 2020.
So moved.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey, you were not at that meeting.
Oh, I can't. Oh, they look pretty
I'll
good to me.
I'll accept them.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes from November 19th, 2020. Any remarks, corrections, additions? Finding none, I'll call the roll. Mary Cronin,
Yes.
yes? Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, okay. Next, we have the minutes from December 9th, 2020.
Was I here, Mary?
No. Oh, yes, for that one, yes, you were here.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented. Oh, yeah, there I am.
Second.
Here a second, okay.
Mark Masood, was
Motion made.
that you?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes from December 9th, 2020. Remarks, corrections, any additions? Call a roll call. Mary Cronin,
Yes. Oh, wait, I can't do that when I wasn't there.
No. Mark, Matt, Jeff, and Bernie.
okay. Jeff Harold,
Yes.
Mark,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
minutes are accepted. Next item on the agenda. Old business. Regulated activity 1129, Encompass Health. So anyone, let's see, there's several people here. Ward, did you want to say anything before we started, or?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for having us back tonight. Again, I'm with Eric Lindquist, the project engineer, and Matt Pop, the project landscape architect and environmental specialist. We submitted revised plans. I think Mr. Janey's had a chance to review them, but we understand that the commission has some questions. So if there's anything we can do to help your understanding of the plans, we're ready to go.
Okay, questions? Mark, did you want to start first?
Sure, Mr. Chair. We've received your plans. I have had the chance to do a cursory, well, more than a cursory review, and certainly a better understanding of them. Some of my questions have been answered again with a more in-depth reading. Mr. Chair, shall I, kind of lay out where we're at, or do you want to do
Sure,
that?
absolutely, if you don't mind.
Okay. In consultation with staff and the chairman, the commission It's a big project. There's a lot going on. There are still some outstanding concerns, and the commission is in the process of and has contracted with a peer review consultant to give us a rather brief desktop kind of review of the project, so we can have the value of another some more input. I think it's going to be in the category of one of the more outstanding items, at least in my mind, is the impacts from short-term erosion control impacts having to do with clearing of about 7 acres of the site at once. I can speak from my experience in having experienced with the city when employed by the city, several sites that were developed under that scenario, and inevitably, once a site is cleared, is when the adverse weather starts, and they at some point or another were extremely difficult to control under those circumstances. So we want to just make sure that we can again get the benefit of some expert opinion with regards to having the best erosion control plan that we can. And this is in the spirit of making suggestions to improvement of that plan. From what I understand, the engineering department will review the stormwater management plan. I must admit that at first, when I read through the narrative and saw the references to Debo and Reese, it was like a flashback to the 90s, and I know certainly the city used that at one point as a reference, and I hadn't even heard a reference back to it since I left. So I guess I commend you guys for like digging it up. I'm not even quite sure where you found it, because current staff, when I mentioned it to them, they're like shook their head and like, what is that all about? So my initial concern was that was the design criteria. And, again, I'll laud you for going through, for having a stormwater management plan that took into account not only TSS removal, but phosphorus, nitrogen, the heavy metals, and hitting some targets for pollutant reduction along those lines. But again, as I say, my initial reaction was, well, where are the references to more up-to-date standards, that being the Connecticut guidelines, and I did find them, and I see some of your backup information in terms of infiltration, the data for infiltration for the infiltration galleries. But again, we want to have somebody do a peer review and make sure that all is in order, and make some suggestions and help us out in the review. Another thing I noticed, and I'm not sure that I saw, and I don't believe this to be a big hurdle, but I believe the site is in the Lake Kenosha watershed area, and there are additional stormwater standards that one needs to meet on top of the current standards. So I would ask that you just make sure that those standards are also being met, or are part of your stormwater calculations. so there's stormwater, there's the erosion control. And the consultant will just take again a look at the functions and values of wetlands and hopefully make some productive comments in that regard as well. So those seem to be, at this point, the major issues, concerns, areas that we'd like to touch on a little bit more. So I certainly, we can get, from what I understand, we can get a review, within roughly, within like a 2-week to 4-week time period. Certainly, we'll shoot for a 2-week period so that we can give you an adequate time to respond. So any information that you, based on our conversation tonight, any information that you want to or feel you can provide to us along the lines of the items we just discussed would be certainly appreciated and helpful, and help us to move the project along.
Well, I can touch on a few of those opening comments in terms of, and I can share my screen to touch on a couple of these items.
Just a second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I think it's okay.
Hey, Eric, can you just identify yourself for the record?
Oh, no worries. Eric Lindquist, Senior Project Manager with Tyne Bond. Still showing as host disabled participating screen sharing.
Let's take a look. Oh, I'm sorry. How about now?
There we go. I put the wrong screen. Can you see that? No, can you see it now, or am I showing the wrong screen?
Oh, we just saw it, but went to a Tyne Bond screen now.
All right, it's making it look like I do. So is that showing it now?
Yep.
All right, good.
That's it.
All right, so this is the erosion control plan. I take in consideration of what you said about the disturbance of the site. One thing I'd highlight in regards to this, and until we kind of get a contractor on board and figure out how the construction phasing is going to go, this entire perimeter along the wetlands will eventually have a retaining wall, and we can stress the need for that to go in as early as possible. Once that wall is in place, it'll be a pretty significant barrier to any erosions that do go towards the wetlands, but unfortunately we do have to clear at some point and get fill material from one part of the site and move to the other side of the site. So we need to build this in certain sequences in order to accommodate that. So I would just reiterate that there will be a wall that will protect this wetlands. We could try and get that into the initial phases of construction so that we're taking the fill material from here and then backfilling this wall as it goes up and providing those protections as we go. We still will maintain these sediment traps on either side. We will still drain towards them and maximize the amount of runoff going to those to enhance pollutant renovation and, I'm sorry, TSS renovation. So we will still have all the other measures in place, including hay bale rows. We can double up the hay bale rows or do something else to further enhance that. But there are thoughts involved with this, and we'd welcome any feedback that you do get from a third-party reviewer on that. In terms of your other comment related to the Lake Kenosha, yes, we are aware of that, and yes, we did account for that in our calculations. And in terms of Debo and Reese, we worked on several of the sites out here at the reserve, and we try and be consistent because the models are, a lot of them are tied in together. So we follow a lot of the same protocols as we go through this. So we were using Debo and Reese when we first did our initial designs out here on the site that was requested by the city. And we've continued to do that for our pollutant renovation calculations. In regards to how we're getting rid of pollutants on site, I would note that we have a lot of measures in place, including sumps in all the catch basins. We have gross particle separators for each of the discharge locations, as well as on this side, we have a water quality system that's sized to attenuate the first 1 inch of runoff, which is the Connecticut deep guidelines for pollutant renovation. So that's going to fully infiltrate that, which is where you're going to get most of your pollutant removal. Infiltration is one of the best means of getting rid of that. We did also just add in this latest revision, which it's not here, this is the older plan, so I can go to the new plan. But we did just add over here the check dams, which will allow a little bit more, not a tremendous amount, but for this side of the site, it will address your concerns before about having a more sheet flow on this side and having a more of a discharge on this side. So we did add this to kind of attenuate the flows going down the hill, check them, provide a little bit more renovation. There's more plantings that were added, so that'll pick up some of the pollutants. So we have incorporated a lot of measures for BMP removal, and I feel confident that we will be okay with your third-party reviewer. But once again, we welcome any feedback related to that when they do finish their review.
Mhm.
I can pass it over to Matt now to go over the functions and values, and I'll release my screen if I can bring this back up somehow. Where is it? Stop share. There it is.
Wasn't sure if you wanted to keep that same screen up or one.
Oh, I can do it. Yeah, come on.
Might be good to keep that up. So again, we went over at the last meeting, we went over some of the functions of the wetlands down to the east of the site, down slope. It is a large system.
Excuse me.
That wetland slopes in two directions. This one,
Pardon me?
Matt Pop,
Thank you.
landscape architect, professional wetland scientist, environmental land solutions.
Thank
That
you.
wetland on site actually drains to the north. At the gas easement, the wetland kind of divides and it slopes to the south there. I've walked that wetland numerous times over the last, probably 15 years or so. And again, we're keeping away from any impact to those wetlands. We're well upslope from those areas. The wetland did have, when they put in the gas easement, I mean, the new pipeline, there was some disturbance to that wetland. Probably the nicest part of that wetland was kind of impacted about 3 years ago or 2 years ago when the new main was put in. Again, we touched on the functions the last meeting. We can go through them again if you want. Again, it's a large system, has many of the wetland functions, wildlife habitat, sediment trapping, nutrient uptake, has some recreational value too for wildlife watching. So,
Excuse me, Jeff Harold would like to ask a question.
sure.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I've been trying to find that raised hand thing and it didn't able to do it. I was going to go back to the previous speaker, but perhaps the person talking now can handle it. I went up and drove by and around the site last week, trying to get a handle on what we were looking at here. Regarding that wall, the retaining wall that you say you want to kind of get in and kind of get it in as soon as possible, how high is that really going to be? Because the variations in the level of the land were greater than I thought they were from looking at the drawings. How high is that wall going to be?
Sure. So I can go into that. It's going to vary, obviously. The worst, or the highest point, not the worst point, but the highest point will be over here. If you can see where my hand is moving, and I can zoom in. If I can get my, and it has some wall heights on the plans if you go to them, or at least it shows the top and bottom wall elevations. So in this area, this is where the wall is the highest. So it's going to be around 25 feet or so.
Yeah, wow.
And then, because as you were out there and you saw, it drops off significantly through here.
Yeah, and from the picture, I couldn't see that. I wasn't looking at the lines well enough, I guess.
Yeah, this is on the grading plan, and as you scroll down across the plan, you'll see the walls get shorter. It gets to 14 feet here, and then it gradually slopes up and disappears over on this end. So
Closest to the road, it's going to be 25 feet high. It's going to be like a massive, like a fort, like a rampart.
right at this corner, it's going to quickly get shorter as it goes this way as well. So you can, obviously, when you come into the entrance over here, it's going to be even with grade. It's going to slope up into the site. This will be maintained landscaping. So don't forget, there's a dip down, and then it goes back up. So the elevation related to the road isn't going to be as significant as you think. So if you're at 683 here and you're at 700 here, so it would be more like 15 feet of grade change from here to here.
Right. Wow. Okay, it's still just bigger than I thought it was going to be. And driving around up there, I was surprised at the number of retaining walls and how much of that we're doing up on the hill up there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if you go across the street to the Rivington. You don't see the walls because you're always on the high side of them, but the walls over there are,
Oh, I found them. I found them. Oh, yes, I did.
they're around 20 feet tall as well. And it's unfortunate. This is a very topographical site, the entire reserve. So we are limited on what we can do out there with how much the ground goes up and down. So we tried to do our best to minimize this. That's one of the reasons we ended up selecting, hold on one second. That's one of the reasons we ended up selecting this driveway location, is because it actually, believe it or not, made this wall the lowest. We tried to do an example, running one over here, coming in on this side and having the main entrance. It ended up making the wall even higher, I think 10 or 15 feet higher. So
Wow.
this was the elevation that we worked out to have the lowest wall height elevation, and trying to balance grade as much as possible out there. We obviously have to avoid the roundabout, so we can't come in over here or here. We're too close to the prongs of the roundabout. So we wanted to be a little bit further away, and every other place resulted in the walls being higher.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. I'm amazed at how much we've taken away from the mountain, and it's becoming, it's so built up now. I'm just curious about that, and I'm just kind of sad to see how much of that's going away up there. And I'll take my hand down now. Thank you.
So will the commission carry us on the agenda for next time in case the report comes in ahead of time? This is terrible. I think you're on mute, Mr. Gallo.
And can Eric stop sharing his screen, please? Thank you. We're back. Bernie, you're on mute.
Oh.
Is that Ward? Better?
There you go.
Okay. Ward, we'll get this to you as quickly as we can. We don't want to hold this up any more than you want us to, okay?
We'll be ready to come back whenever the commission is ready to have us.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? A motion's in order to table.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair, to table application 1129 Encompass Health Reserve Road and Corporate Drive to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
February 24th. Okay. Is there a
Second.
second? Motion made and seconded to table this meeting until our next regular meeting on February 24th, 2021. No discussion on the table. Mary Cronin, yes, no?
Would Mary unmute herself, please?
Mary?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Jeff Harold,
Yes.
Mark Masood,
Yes.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
Chair says yes, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for coming this
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you all very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Mary, I don't see, is Mary, Mike Safranek isn't here, huh?
He is not.
Okay, we'll run it without him.
And he acknowledged the agenda. So
Okay, we'll take it up without him. That's all. Everyone had a letter in their packet. This is under correspondence. A letter in their packet from 12/28/2020 on the property on Myrie Brook Road that abuts the airport. He sent you a diagram. This piece of property is one we had put a notice of violation against in 2008. And it's been in and out of court, and I think we had an injunction, but nobody, I don't know, it fell through the cracks, nothing was done. So what Mike Safranek wants to know is, if the city takes over the property, are they going to have to correct all the wetland violations, or they can be done by someone who buys or rents the property? Anybody have any ideas on this, any thought on this? You all should have gotten a diagram from showing where the problem was.
Excuse me, Mr. Gallo, I
Yes.
don't remember sending anybody a diagram.
Oh, I got one.
I
Okay, I
see,
received
I see a
one.
letter. I don't see a diagram.
Yeah, I got
Or
a
maybe
letter.
Mike Soprano just sent it to me. I don't know why.
Mr. Chairman, I'll weigh in on that. If the city takes over the property and they become, in essence, the property owner, I think that they inherit the violations, and it becomes their responsibility to make any corrections. Saying that, if they want to delegate that or hire somebody or make an agreement with somebody else to correct those violations, I think that's fine. I think they can do that, but the property owner always remains the entity that inherits and is responsible for correction of any violations.
That was my thought. That's what I had told him. But he said he wanted to send a letter to the commission. I said, fine, send a letter. We'll discuss it and we'll go from there.
Mr. Chairman, I don't usually chime in, it's Sharon Colicchio. I would just maybe suggest that you send this to the Office of the Corporation Counsel and get a
Yeah.
legal opinion about it.
Sure.
Yeah, this is, Corporation Counsel knows about this. They know about the letter too. And they want to know where we stood on it. I could have given them the answer myself, but they wanted a letter to go to the commission, so that's where it is. I will come back and tell them that this is what they have to do, that's all. No objection to that, I don't think?
None from me.
Yeah, okay. We've been trying to do this since 2008. It's time we do something with it. I don't know why. All right, we don't need a motion on anything on this letter, okay? Round Street, violations, Round Street extension. He's corrected all those violations and I sent him a letter saying it was done to our satisfaction. Under correspondence, you have something from DEP, a couple of items. And, that's pretty much it for this evening.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion made. And
Several
seconded,
seconds.
yeah, to adjourn. Take a roll call vote. Barry Cronin,
Yes.
Jeff Harold,
Bye.
Mark Masood,
Aye.
Matt Rose,
Aye.
Bernie Gallows, and I.
Hey, Mark, where was that picture taken? I want to go. Matt, I want to go.
Mary,
Picture-
stop the YouTube.